Licensed games. They tend to get a bad rap. And let's be real, a majority of them are pretty bad. But there are those licensed games. The ones that everyone knows are great. And hell, there are some licensed games that are so good, people forget that they are licensed games to begin with. PS2 was kind of infamous for having a ton of licensed games on it. Personally, I found this period to be the best era for licensed games though. Companies and devs generally seem to care a lot more, and it led to a few absolute classics releasing on the platform. Now obviously, there are those famous licensed games on the PS2. But there are also a lot of underrated licensed games on the PS2 as well. A lot of these games were either overlooked or flat out get hated on just because of a few flaws they have, or because of the fact they're licensed games, and so they don't get taken as seriously as some real video games. There are a lot of underrated licensed games on the PS2. Too many to cover in one video. So I decided to settle on 5. I was tempted to do 10, but some of the games I thought of I hadn't played enough to get a definitive opinion on, so I just settled on 5. With that being said, the games I am talking about here are all pretty solid. They have their flaws, but I genuinely think they're all worth checking out if you can find them. If I am being brief with these reviews, it's just because I plan to make fully fleshed out reviews of them in the future, and I just feel like giving them a shout out now. That being said, I hope you all enjoy.
Dance with me, Lois. Dance the dance of life!
I was tempted to talk about Simpsons Road Rage for this entry, since there are still a fair few people who just write it off as a cheap clone of Crazy Taxi, but I think there are enough people that recognize that it's a pretty good game. As for the Family Guy game, I think way too many people write it off completely because, well, it's fucking Family Guy.
Holy fuck, Stewie, I'm shitting.
The game blends 3, technically 4, game genres together. The style of the game depends on which character you are playing as. Peter has beat-em-up levels, Stewie has platformer levels that blend on-rail shooter aspects, and Brian has stealth levels. The game also incorporates cutaways into little WarioWare-style minigames that grant you bonuses and upgrades during levels. Now the game isn't perfect, the controls can get a little clunky at times, and the plot is all over the place due to you constantly switching between the 3 plots that eventually intersect at the end. Graphics have an okay style, they try to go for this kind of shell-shaded style. The models are too low res and pointy to be as good as something like, say, 13. All that, and there's a lot of difficulty spikes, particularly during the Brian levels. Most of the game is pretty standard. Piss easy at times even, but there are certain points where you either get completely overwhelmed by a ton of enemies, and thanks to the clunky combat they can be a real bitch to fight if you don't have enough in your power meter, and in the case of Brian levels, they tend to have pretty wonky detection hitboxes and bad enemy placement as well. I'm just saying, don't expect Metal Gear levels of qualities for the stealth levels. Despite these issues, the game is still pretty fun. It was made back when Family Guy was still consistently funny. It features a lot of callbacks to jokes and characters from those earlier seasons. Also uses a lot of music used in SpongeBob, which is pretty funny too. Honestly, if you're looking to have a fun time and play a stupid meme game, I'd highly recommend picking this up if you can find it. Good luck though, because it can get pretty expensive.
That's a cute outfit. Did your husband give it to you?
Everyone knows about the tie-in game for the Raimi Spider-Man films. Did you know there was a 4th one? No, not that Spider-Man 4 game that got leaked not too long ago. I'm talking about Spider-Man Friend or Foe. This game is probably the closest we'll ever get to a LEGO Spider-Man game. It plays pretty similar to a LEGO game, albeit with less of a focus on puzzles and more of a focus on combat. As the name implies, the game is about Spider-Man teaming up with his enemies in order to defeat a greater threat. It has both villains used in the movies, alongside some villains and a few heroes as well that were straight from the comics. This game was developed by Next Level Games. Yes, that Next Level Games. Its combat is quick and snappy. The game does a good job of making the characters feel different from each other, and it even has a 2-player mode, both in levels, and a versus mode. Honestly, the only real problem with the game is that the dialogue honestly isn't the best. The actors do a good job, particularly James Arnold Taylor as Spider-Man. It's just the dialogue feels a little too kiddie at times, like it's trying way too hard to be funny.
Threat identity, Scorpion. Scorpion suit is equipped with a high-powered plasma laser. Warning, has a pig tail.
Computer.
Threat identity, Rhino. Rhino's strength is only matched by his lack of wits. Warning. Smells like a rhinoceros.
All right, that's enough. I want some computer techs in here right now.
I'll tell you what, I'll just leave you two to sort this out, and I'll go see if I can find your buddy Iron Fist and that meteor show.
I don't know. Maybe just because I'm an adult, but I also love to defend dialogue in Sonic games, so maybe I'm just weird. This arguably might be the best game on the list. Overall though, this game is really, really good. It's not just a good licensed game, it's honestly a hidden gem on the PS2. Much like the next game we're going to be talking about on the list.
Look, Gwen, you have to treat a car like you treat a woman.
Originally, I was going to put the Ben 10 Alien Force game in this entry, but I have a lot more experience with Protector Reverse than I do the Alien Force game, so that's why I'm talking about this one instead. This game was made by the same devs as the Family Guy game, and I think only came out a year or two after that one. This game is honestly really, really good. Combat is slick, even better than Spider-Man Friend or Foe. Levels are really well designed, the graphics and the music are killer. Honestly, the only real problem I have with the game is a pretty subjective one. The fact you barely get to use any of Ben's aliens in it. Though, at the same time, this also allows the aliens that they did choose to have really, really fleshed out movesets. Even if you know next to nothing about Ben 10, and the plot will probably make no sense to you, this is the game I'd recommend the most on the list. I legit think this is among some of the best games on the PS2. Not top 10 per se, but definitely top 50. It is easily the most underrated game on this list, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a huge fan of Ben 10. If you can find it, which isn't too hard, check this out now.
Hey Goob, what's up? Cool binder. Hey Goob, wanna come over to my house today?
They all hated me.
This game is basically if Disney made a Ratchet & Clank game. It doesn't have platforming like Ratchet & Clank, but it is focused a lot on combat, and said combat involves a handful of weapons you can switch between. And it has you running around collecting a bunch of collectibles and scanning stuff to unlock little gizmos. The game acts as kind of like a prequel, midquel something to the movie. I guess. I don't know. But it revolves around Wilbur trying to get the time machine back from Polar Hat Guy after he messed up things in the future. The really neat thing this game does is expanding the world of the movie by taking some of the side characters from the movie and making future versions of them and making them some of the main bosses. Admittedly, though, the game is a bit simplistic. As I mentioned, there's a lot of unlockables in the game that help flesh it out. And another neat little thing is that it uses the same voice actors from the movies, even Adam West and Tom Selleck. Now, the game isn't without flaws. It looks like shit. The models look alright, but whatever graphic engine they use in the game makes everything look very jagged, kind of like the Family Guy game. Controls are a little janky as well, which can lead to combat being pretty clunky, and honestly bullshit at times. Though thankfully the respawning in this game is really, really forgiving. And there are some mini-games in this game, like a Powerball mini-game, or whatever the heck it's called, as well as this orb mini-game that aren't really very good either. But other than that, it's a pretty decent game, especially considering a lot of other licensed games that came out around this time weren't very good, especially from Disney. I know I sound like I'm being Greek, but this is one game that I especially want to go into more detail in the future. So, stay tuned for that. And now, to end this off with a bang. This game rocks. Honestly, it's one of the best pieces of tie-in media, period. It acts as a sequel to the 2003 Hulk film, greatly expanding on the story of that film while adding in a ton of cool characters. Combat, like in Protector of Earth and Spider-Man Friend or Foe, is great. It controls well, combos are slick, the graphics look pretty good, even for the era. One neat little detail I like about the art style is that that instead of having really thick models on the characters, they have fairly thin models, especially on Hulk, which kind of adds its own unique kind of stylization to it. The game also features two types of levels in it. Action levels where you play as Hulk beating the shit out of everything, and stealth levels where you play as Rubes. Unlike the Brian levels in the Family Guy game though, stealth levels in this game are really well designed. Enemy placement is a lot better and there aren't as many bullshit hitboxes and stuff in it. Fun fact, this game was also made by Radical, the same guys who made Simpsons Road Rage and Simpsons Hit and Run, and later went on to make Hulk Ultimate Destruction as well. I know a lot of people don't really like the 2003 Hulk movie, but trust me, this game, even if this game acts as a sequel, it's still barely connected to that movie beyond using Eric Bana to play Bruce. Honestly, alongside Ben 10 Protector of Earth, this unironically might be one of the biggest hidden gems you can get on the PS2. It's a really, really good game. And again, maybe not be like a top 10 best PS2 game, but it's easily in the top 50 of the best PS2 games. It's just a really fun and well-designed beat-em-up game. And that's it. I know most of those were pretty brief, and I apologize for that. But that's just because, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but I plan to cover most of these games in the future. Some sooner than others, but all of them eventually. Anyways, that's all. Please like, comment, please subscribe, and goodbye.